Hello everybody, welcome to episode 9 of making an online Pokemon game, Game Maker Studio 2. In this video we need to start working on some more grid-like movements rather than this continuous movement we're doing now. So if we run this and we just see where we're at currently, if I open up both two clients, they all work. Movement is nice and continuous, but that's not what a Pokemon game is like. A Pokemon game has more grid-like movement, so you move on a grid instead of moving in a continuous fashion. Now, I hate, and I mean I really hate, grid movements in games because they are a pain to deal with, but we're going to do our best. First thing I want to do is under this server here, I just happen to have this open, so I guess I can change these to be the correct type. If you remember last time we made a new buffer type. So this will be type ID for this the type I, and we're under the servers on async function under the connect. So I'm just changing this to type ID. These can be type position and type position. This is a type ID. If I scroll down, same thing here, type ID and type position for these. Alright, so I just want to get that out of the way since I was on it anyway. Probably do the same thing up here actually. So type ID up here and then type position and type position. Alright, I think it's everywhere in there. Anyway, so how are we going to do this? I think I hinted at this before, but we want everything to be kind of in the server side. We could do client side movement, and to be honest, that would be easier to implement, but we have chances for bugs where the server or the client might say, hey, actually, no, I described this last time, didn't I? Where it's like, yeah, so we want the client to all deal with we want the server to deal with the position, which we are doing currently. The server is dealing with the positions, but now we're going to have clients can do a little more work now. In particular, we're going to be only having the server deal with the grid position rather than the entire discrete position. The client can deal with converting from grid space to real world space, but the server is going to know the exact grid position that the player is at. So let's go to player data and let's add in some grid stuff. So we'll need a grid position variable here, and this is going to be XY now instead. So instead of this player data passing in a real discrete or a real continuous position, it's going to pass in the grid position, which means that this position here needs to be updated accordingly. And we'll do that by saying X is going to now be equal to grid position times, and we need a grid size, so at the very top here, we'll just define it here. We'll call it macro grid size, and we'll set it to 96 for now. So we'll multiply this by grid size, and okay, that updated. And then we'll do the same thing for the Y position. And this should be grid position dot X and grid position dot Y times those values. So now we're going to be passing in a grid position instead of a real world position. Under this render, this should be fine. We have this update client here and this update server. Excuse me. We scroll down to updating the server. First of all, the server should now be passing in the grid position and the grid position. We should also change these to be the type ID and the type positions. So I'll make those the correct types now. And here, instead of updating, the server will not control the real world position. It'll only control the grid. So I'm going to say grid position.x plus equals delta x and grid position.y plus equals delta y. And then I can remove these two lines of code and remove this speed variable. So now we're just increasing the grid position. But if we were to run this, our grid position, we would go flying off the screen. So we want to add in some form of a delay between how fast we can move from one grid position to another. So I will do that by scrolling up, and we'll do this with a timer for now. We'll do this in a better way later. I just want to get grids to work for now. So I'll name these move time equals 0 and move max time equals, and we'll do 30. So it'll be 30 frames between each move. We can change this up a little later, but for now that'll be fine. And I want to take this entire thing, if we scroll down back to this update server, so we won't be updating this every single time we want to move. Instead, we'll be doing this in an if move time is less than or equal to 0. And we'll just wrap this up with some brackets. And then at the bottom here, I can just set move time equal to move max time. And below this if statement, I'll just set move time to decrement. So we'll just decrease move time, and up here we're setting it. So now this can only happen once every 30 frames. So we won't be continuously moving to the next grid cell, otherwise we would just go flying. And that should be fine. It's all on the server, so this does not happen on the client side at all. If we scroll up here, before, the way I was running this update client, right now this only happens on the one single client, that is us. So we need to fix that a little bit. So the way we're going to fix that is, if I come into here at the very top, I'm going to say if ID does not equal, I want to say client.id, then I'm going to return. That way I can do stuff up here at the top for every client instead of just the one client. In particular, every client needs to update its own real position based on its grid position. So I can do that pretty simply. I can just say position.x equals grid position.x times grid size, and position.y equals grid position.y times the grid size. And that should just match exactly what you see up here when we are defining the position itself. It should be the exact same. In fact, I could probably do this in a better way, but we'll leave it like this for now. But hopefully that should be everything we need in the player data. I'm just giving it one more check to make sure. I'm sure we're going to come up with bugs, but hopefully that should be good. We're updating the correct grid position now. So yep. Let's go into the network control now. Let's go to the step event where we're doing this, and we're going to make this a little better now. This is pretty messy, so I'm going to take everything down here where we're updating the server, and I'm going to put it up here. So it's not going to happen in just the server and the client, so we're going to update every single client and every single server player object, if that makes sense. So here I'm going to say, after we check if the players is not none, we'll say if is client, then I want to say players I dot update client, else I can just copy this and paste it up here. So if we're the client, we'll run the update client, but if we are the server, we'll call the update server. And everything down here can go away now. So now we are updating every player on the client side as well as the server side. So should have thought about that a little better last time when we implemented this, but it's fixed now. The draw event, I don't think we need to update anything there. Async is obviously fine. I'm not sure what these warnings are for, probably some weird data stuff, but it should be fine. GUI's not changing. Again, I don't know why this is coming up with an error, but it should be fine. And yeah, that's everything there is fine now. Now let's go into, I guess, the server. Let's make sure everything here is good, which it's definitely not. If we go to the on async, when we connect a player, first of all, when we make the player, we don't want to make it at anywhere between 0 and 500 because these are grid positions now. So 500 on a grid position would be really big. So we'll do 5 and 5, 4 and 4. So it won't be random anymore. It's just going to be an exact position that we start at, which should be fine for now. When we're sending these positions, we now need to send the grid positions. So update those to grid positions. If I scroll down, these should be grid positions. Yep, all that is fine. Down here we need grid positions. I just wanted to make sure because I recorded this before and I had some issues, and I noticed a bug before where I had typed in ID instead of I, and I don't know how that happened, to be honest, because looking at the code now it's correct. So yeah, this should be I, and these should be other dot grid positions, because this is being sent to the person who just connected. Anyway, that being said, everything there is fine. Grid position's fine. We should look at where else we are calling make player, make sure that's okay. But I think that's in the client's on data. So go to on data client here, and let's make sure everything is correct on this. And this is just receiving the XY position and passing it directly to the make player. That's fine. Everything here looks fine for the new players. We're making it, yep. While we're creating this, everything here looks fine as far as I can tell. Yep, X and Y, we're just passing it straight through. For updating the player position, however, here, this should be the grid position, not the position. So when we create or set the player position, yep, we need to update it the grid position instead. Okay. And yeah, I think that should be everything we need, hopefully. If I run the server and I run the client, the first client seems to move properly. If I run another client, and it looks like they are both moving in sync and properly, which is great to see. And if I execute another player, looks like all the positions are correct. They're all being synced up properly. That is amazing to see. That was much faster than I thought too. So a couple things. First of all, obviously you'll see that we're jumping to the next position instead of like discreetly trying to move to the next position. That shouldn't be too difficult to solve, I think. We could probably solve that with a lerp function. Well, even that might be a little weird. I don't know if a lerp would be fine. Probably just... yeah, we can fix that really quick. Let's go into the client. So this needs to happen on the client side, not the server side. So let's go to player data, and we're going to go to where we update this client. So right now we are just directly setting the position to whatever this calculation is. Instead, let's make this a new variable. We'll call it var target x and target y. So this is where we want to be, and we're not just going to directly set it. So I will say var speed equals, and we'll set this to 5 again, and we will see. So we need to move towards that direction, and I'm trying to think of the best way to do that. I guess we could just do this var delta x equals, and this will be position.x minus target x, I think. And var delta y equals position dot y minus target y, and probably need to do the absolute value of these. Is absolute value correct? No, we want the sign of these. So it'll be 1, -1, or 0 if they are the exact same. This should be fine. And now I can say position.x plus equals delta x times speed, and position.y plus equals delta y times speed. And let's try this. I'll be surprised if I got things correct the first time, but we'll try. The answer is no. We're moving in the opposite direction. So that is probably because I probably got these backwards. So this should be target minus the position. So let me get this in the correct order, and we'll try this again. Run this. Ooh, nice and jittery. So I will need to do a locking mechanism to get this to actually be fine. So I will say if, well, we'll do this in delta x actually. We'll do it after this. If delta x is less than, how should we do this? Let's remove this sign here. So delta x and delta y will just be the direct. Someone's playing some loud music. Instead of taking the sign, we'll just set it to the direct values, and then here we'll do the sign within setting this position. And then I will say if delta x, if absolute value of delta x is greater than speed, or absolute value of delta y is greater than speed, then we'll do this. Otherwise, else, I will say position dot x equals target x, and position dot y equals target y. So what this is doing is, so we get the distance between us and the target, and if the distance is big enough, then we'll just slowly basically interpolate to that position. Otherwise, we will just set the position. If it's a small enough distance, we'll just set it. So I will run this and run the first client, and if I hold down the right key, we're just moving over. If I hold down the left or down key, we're moving over. And this looks like it is working properly. Yeah, everything looks pretty good. If I open up another player and I move them, they are basically moving in sync. The movement is a little weird because it's stopping. We could do this in a couple ways. The first way would be to reduce the timer, but that might cause issues. Or we could try, let's try increasing the speed as well as another thing, but that would also cause issues. So either way, there's going to be issues. So, but we could try and fine tune it. So if I come back into the player data actually, and I scroll up and I reduce this timer to, let's say, 15. Like, you could try this and you just change the timer for both the players, and you'll notice that, well, it's smooth now. Ooh, except for that I was not expecting. I think that's with diagonal movement. So yeah, if I hold down the down key or move up, as you can see, I'm moving. But what you can't really see on the screen is when I'm releasing the key. So if I hold it down for a little bit and then I release, I'm still moving, and I move for a little bit. And that'll always happen because the position that the server thinks I am is going faster than what I am able to update. So how are we going to fix this? And the answer is, man, that jittering looks really funny to me. The answer is I don't quite know yet, to be honest. But we do have grid-like movement working at least. This diagonal thing will have to go away, which is fine. We'll just have to stop diagonal movement in general because I don't think Pokemon games have diagonal movement anyway. It just looks so funny. I don't know why. Anyway, so yeah, but at least things are working. I can move the red guy too, and should be able to connect. I'm just making sure everything looks right. Everyone seems to be in sync, and that's what really counts. So yeah, so next time we should be able to finish it off by doing some cleanup on this grid movement. In particular, making it so that we don't have this delay, because right now it's a battle between, do we have a delay when I release and I continue moving, or do I have it where I stop in between each cell for a little bit? And it's kind of bad to fine tune it. So we'll just come up with a solution that'll essentially guarantee that we can continuously move, but still like have more responsiveness to it, so that when we release, we actually stay in the position that we're meant to stay in. But anyway, until then, I'll see you guys later.